My friends and I had a tradition of renting a cabin deep in the mountains every November to unwind from daily stresses. We'd hike, fish, drink whiskey, enjoy the isolation. Last year's trip was different though. When I arrived at the remote cabin, only two of my buddies were there, Vince and Todd. They said Nate and his girlfriend Liz were delayed but driving up separately the next day. No cell service meant we had no way to contact them. That first night we drank around the fire, reminiscing. But an unease hung over the trip. Nate not showing up was troublingly out of character. The next day passed without any sign of him. Hiking and fishing felt forced. By nightfall, Todd and Vince seemed on edge, obsessively calling Nate's phone to no avail. We all had a restless sleep. On day 3, our concern turned to dread. After debating, we decided to head into town and notify the police. They could ping Nate's phone to get a location. We hoped he'd just gotten lost en route. When we arrived that afternoon, a deep pit opened in my stomach. Parked right in town was Nate's Jeep. No gas shortage or flat tire could explain them never making it here. As Vince and Todd gave their statements, a piercing unease gripped me. Nate wasn't simply late, him and Liz had vanished. And something sinister lurked behind their fate, obscured just out of view. The cops were reluctant to rush the investigation with so little evidence of actual foul play. But we convinced them to take us to the Jeep. Nothing seemed disturbed, but a scrap of paper on the dashboard made my blood turn cold. A hand-drawn map of the mountain roads around our cabin. An X marked a spot a few miles back, Devil's Gorge, a remote ravine. Dread seeped into our bones. What had they gone looking for out there? When the police filed a standard missing persons case, we knew it was on us to uncover the truth of our friend's disappearance. The next day, we drove as close to Devil's Gorge as the rocky terrain allowed. A narrow trail snaked up the craggy slopes. Vince and Todd wanted to turn back. But images of Nate and Liz lost out there propelled me on. I had to discover what drew them from our cabin into these forsaken wilds. Reluctantly, they followed me up the overgrown path, our unease swelling with each step. The silence around us was suffocating. Not even birdsong pierced the void. We hiked for an hour before the ravine gaped open before us, a vast wooded canyon wreathed in cold mist. Jagged boulders jutted up ominously. As we peered down into its depths, a shotgun blast rang out. Whirling around, we saw a grizzled old man holding a smoking rifle, his snarling hound at his feet. "This land is private property," he barked. "Turn back now or suffer the consequences." I tried placating him as Vince and Todd cowered behind me. But he only repeated his warning before whistling for his dog and marching away, leaving us shaken. Clearly we weren't welcome here. But the threat couldn't deter me now. I knew answers lay at the bottom of this cursed gorge. As my friends hurried back down the trail, I continued on alone, one way or another. I had to find out what became of Nate and Liz. The path soon vanished completely, leaving me to half-climb, half-slide down the canyon's steep rocky walls, bloodying myself in the process. It felt like a descent into hell itself. I was about ready to turn back when the narrow gorge finally opened up, revealing an isolated clearing surrounded by dense, towering pines. In its center sat a decrepit cabin with boarded-up windows. Edging closer, I noticed the door hung slightly ajar. Steeling myself, I stepped onto the sagging porch and nudged it open. The foul odor that billowed out sent me reeling. Covering my mouth, I stumbled inside. The utilitarian rooms were littered with gnawed animal carcasses, crude furnishings, and occult-like symbols scrawled on the walls. Rifle shells and bloody knives lay scattered about. Whatever twisted individual inhabited this cabin, they were clearly highly unstable and dangerous. As I ventured toward the back rooms, my heart clenched. No sane person could be behind this. That's when I glimpsed it on a cluttered work table, a jewel-encrusted bracelet. Immediately, I recognized the distinctive piece. It belonged to Liz. She had been here. Frantically, I searched for more evidence of my friends. Finally, one doorway at the back beckoned. The stench here was overwhelming, leaking from behind the door. Every instinct howled for me to turn away. But I had come too far. As the door creaked open, the sound of a million flies filled my ears. The windowless room was pitch black. Fumbling for my phone's flashlight, I flipped it on. In an instant, my sanity threatened to rupture. There, illuminated in stark detail, hung the eviscerated bodies of Nate and Liz. Their wild, agonized eyes bulged, mouths still gaping in silent screams. Wrists bound with rusty chains. The walls were stained dark with gore. I collapsed to my knees, choking down vomit as the grisly scene seared into my mind. Blinking through tears, I knew I had seconds to escape whoever or whatever did this. Stumbling from that profane altar room, I glimpsed a hunched figure lurking right outside the front door. I darted back through the dank rooms just as the door slammed open, reverberating off the walls. A guttural howl of rage chased my heels as I crashed through a back window and fled into the dense woods, blindly dodging trees. The thing pursued behind me, breaking limbs as it closed in. At last I emerged from the trees onto the gorge's rocky slope. Scrambling up on all fours, I heard the creature's grunts fade as it gave up the pursuit. Sobbing with relief, I dragged myself back up the ravine walls. Reaching my rental car, I sped to the police station that night, babbling my story. But it sounded deranged even to my own ears. Still, 2 deputies accompanied me to Devil's Gorge at dawn, humoring the traumatized man. But we found no grim cabin or human remains, only undisturbed forest and cliffs. The police wrote me off as a distraught lunatic. And without evidence, I knew any further pleas were futile. Whatever monstrous entity snatched my friends, it cleaned house meticulously after I'd stumbled in and somehow escaped. No proof would ever surface now. In the years since, I've scoured the remote forest ceaselessly, risking that crazed hermit's wrath. Some days I wonder if I imagined the horrific scene. But I know in my heart Nate and Liz met an unfathomable end out there in those wilds. One day I may muster the courage to return to that cursed clearing, just hoping for one shred of physical evidence. But the evil presence guarding the gorge still lingers, watching me from the pines, biding its time. Because only by returning to the cabin can I confront the dark truths half-glimpsed on that day of unspeakable carnage. I pray I may someday find clues to bring closure, if not justice. But those blood-stained rooms buried deep in the remote ravine may well become my own tomb. For now, all I can do is recount my tale as a warning. True darkness lurks off the path in the uncharted forest. Some nightmares should remain shrouded, not stirred. And the price of truth is often higher than even the stoutest heart can bear to pay when ancient, ravenous evil awakens. The wooded hills held secrets I was never meant to uncover. But having peered into the abyss, I can never look away again until answers surface, or madness consumes me entirely. This is the razor's edge I now walk, haunted by horrors I failed to prove, yet unable to abandon the search as darkness beckons me back.